want to welcome everyone to a very special, what day is it? Halloween, the Halloween Q&A. I found the ugliest pumpkin ever in the history of anything. And so it's going to be helping us. So if you have any questions about filmmaking or anything else or pumpkins, just shout them out. If you're joining us for the first time, my name is Vashi Nedomansky. I'm a feature film editor based out of Los Angeles. And I'm also co-founder of VashiVisuals.com, where I share all my experiences, stories, tutorials about film editing, filmmaking, cinematography, all that stuff. On the other side of the camera is my co-founder, Anne-Marie, who keeps me in check, keeps me on time, except for today. But we did have technical issues, so sorry about that.
Connection issues,
Instagram. So thank you for joining us, and we're going to try and get through as many questions today. I know it's Halloween, so I don't want to go too long, so we can all go get our sweets on, or our booze on, or our outfits on, or our trick-or-treatings on. So we're going to do all of that today really fast. So thanks again for coming, and let's get into some of the questions, see what we can do.
Awesome.
Anne-Marie, what do you got?
We have some questions from Instagram. Poppy Blanquito had asked, what was your most difficult film to edit and why?
Most difficult film? Surprisingly, I would say Six Below, my latest feature, which was a drama about a guy getting stranded in the woods. It was Josh Hartnett was the star, and it was him alone out in the environment, in the actual snow, and it was just him, not very much dialogue. And you would think that action films or all this kind of craziness is really hard to cut because you have to do all these little splices and cuts. But actually, I find drama and speaking pieces and two people just talking, films like that where you have to focus on the moment, focus on the emotions, and try and convey it properly, that ends up being a lot harder because you can't fake it. You can't super fast cut it and make it work. You have to literally live in the moment and make it feel emotional for the viewer. So I would say, yeah, Six Below, because it was not much action. When there was, it was a release, but the rest of the time you're living with the character, and that's really hard to do convincingly unless you are also emotional and can convey that. So I hope
Definitely.
that helps.
We had another question on Instagram from I am Karen Chavon, who asked, psychology behind color tone of a scene, how to color grade according to the scene mood. Deadpool movie has some scenes in warm color tone, some scenes in cool color tone. What was the thought process behind it?
Sure. Today we're going to talk more about Hollywood feature films that I've either worked on or edited or other bigger things, and this is really important. Color correction has come a long way, and now you can really, it goes back to emotions. You're manipulating emotions by using these color schemes, these color palettes, these color tints, all that kind of stuff. It's doing it to trigger something emotional in you. And it's funny how filmmaking always comes back to the emotional, not so much the technical, which is really important to consider. So in Deadpool, for example, the blue scenes, the night scenes, the scenes that are supposed to be scary in Halloween, are usually tinted blue or something ominous to make it feel eerie. The warmer scenes that are orange or brightly lit are tinted even more orange, are to make it feel comfortable. It's also a balance. You have to have highs and lows. You have to have bright and dark. You have to have blues, oranges, whatever color palette you're working with. You have to have contrast in the film so you're not completely just in one world the whole time unless you want to. There's films like Traffic, Steven Soderbergh's film that won Best Picture. There's a scene, everything in Mexico is shot completely orange filtered. Everything in the city is completely shot with a blue filter. It's like incredibly blue. You're like, that's not real life, but it's a movie, it's not real life. So use colors to your advantage and use them to manipulate emotions. That's what they're there for.
Awesome.
Next.
We got a couple questions coming in on the live here, so I'm going to shift to that for a minute. Moses Vega had asked, best advice for someone wanting to be a film editor, is school necessary? Similarly, we had almost the same question from Harshit Raj, says, he's a beginner, do I need film school to be good at editing, or is online platform sufficient? For learning, I think is what he's getting at.
All right. I would say that film school is absolutely not necessary because those 4 years or however long you take to actually learn all the different crafts and disciplines that you may or may not even be interested in, spend that money on yourself. Spend that money on time. Spend that money on projects you can shoot, you can write, you can edit yourself. You don't need much. We all have iPhones. I got 2 of them running right now. You can make anything at any time. I think the most important thing is to have experience on set and to have experience with collaborating with other people. That is the most important skills. Online, there are so many amazing tutorials and options to learn about the technical craft of filmmaking, because that is equally important. But the storytelling, the manipulation of emotions, again, freaking emotions all the time. You gotta feel something. Even if it's a 1-minute film, you have to watch it, you have to feel something on the other side of it. And if you can do that as a director, editor, cinematographer, whatever your skills are, if you can make someone feel something, you're surpassed film school, you surpassed everything. No one needs to tell you how to feel. So I would say you don't need film school at all. I didn't go to film school. I went to the University of Michigan. I did the film and video studies. I took most of the classes, but I spent all my weekends making short films with friends and stuff, and I learned so much more there. So take that for what it's worth. On the other side, film school, if you want to go. You can meet a lot of people. A lot of people in Hollywood meet each other in film school and then continue that relationship down the road. So there's pros and cons of everything, but I'd be more happy to be behind the camera and actually making something, or in front of a computer screen editing. So that's my piece.
Definitely. D Stewie 21 has joined, and he said,
D Stewie!
Hello, Stud.
D Stewie's the best. D Stewie's my hockey buddy that we play a couple times a week on the ice. We just bag each other and just try and get sweaty, get all the toxins out of our body, and then put them right back in. What does D Stewie have to say?
He says you're a stud.
Oh, Stewie, you're being way too kind. Way too kind. You're the maniac out there. He flies around like 100 miles an hour, 6-shot bar down. It's unbelievable. Huge hockey player.
We've also got an appropriate question here.
Stewie didn't even have a question?
We'll see.
Okay.
I think he's typing.
All right, good. What do we got?
Check Mike has
Check Mike is
asked,
back.
how many films do you see a week, and does it help in your
Jesus.
edits?
Anne-Marie would know about this. I probably watch at least 2 movies a day, I would say. Sometimes I have them on in the background if I'm editing or if I'm doing other work, if I'm reviewing stuff, if I'm doing just emails, tax and stuff. I usually have a movie on. It's a comfort zone for me. It blocks out the noise around my world. It makes me comfortable. And I said this before, I believe through osmosis, as much as you can intake, and that can be watching movies, reading books, listening to music, anything that's inputting into you is going to come out in a creative way later. So I watch at least 2 movies a day. I make time, I find time. I always see something new in those movies, even if I repeat them. I've watched films 50 times, over and over, but I always try and take something away from it. Or my biggest thing is to try and take something away, how the tone of that film was created. Tone is the feeling that when you watch a film, you're like, why is this so good? Is it the acting? Is it the music? Is it the editing? It's probably a combination of all of that, but the tone of a film, what it makes you feel, is the hardest thing to create. And that's why you have certain filmmakers like the Coen brothers have a certain tone. Spielberg has a certain tone to his films. Martin Scorsese has a certain tone to his films. And they're recognizable. You could just turn it on, and if you've never seen it, you're like, that feels like a Scorsese film. So look for tone, or trying to break down tone is what I do when I watch films, and try and get something extra out of it each time.
Awesome. We're going to do 2 more questions on Instagram Live, and then we'll shift back to some of our Instagram questions.
Sure.
Poppy Blanquito had another question. What is the best way or platform, if any, to network with other people in the business, such as directors or cinematographers, etc.?
The best way to network is, like I said earlier, if you go to film school, you're going to meet a lot of core people there. If you are looking to meet new filmmakers and film editors and directors and stuff, in the bigger cities like LA, New York and whatnot, there are meetings. A lot of them are post-production meetings, meetups, whatever. That's a good way, but you seem to run into the same people. I like to literally go out into the world. It's hard because people are usually working on their real job, or they're actually filmmaking and working on their films, so they don't have time to interact. I think it's nice through social media. If there's a director or someone that you like, if you want to reach out to them that way, you can start a dialogue, which could continue into something else. As long as you're not asking for something up front, if you're offering something, or if you're just curious, or if you really find a good question to ask that's thoughtful, that'll stand out. If you just text or email or Instagram someone, hey, that doesn't do anything. You're going to get no response. You're going to be like, whatever. If you ask a thoughtful question of someone, that goes a long way. But just being out in public, you'll be surprised, especially in the bigger cities. There are filmmakers everywhere. It's okay to talk about what you're doing. You don't want to introduce yourself. Hi, I'm a director looking to meet people and work on stuff. It should come naturally through conversations. I think the only way you can meet people honestly is if you just meet them as a human being and not as a target that you want to exploit. So get out there, and also through your work. If you can post something that has meaning that you're really proud of, people will reach out to you. So share, give, exchange is the only way it's going to happen naturally. So that's a quick answer.
Great. And Amaze on live here asks, what is a good way to study frame-by-frame editing decisions from classic films? Any specific software programs you use to convert DVD content to Avid, codec, etc.?
What I do a lot of is, again, I watch films and then I'll try and break down certain scenes to see why they work, and a lot of it is technical. On VashiVisuals.com, I have a section called Vashi Frames. It's one word. You can hashtag that on Twitter or wherever. And I basically break down my favorite movies, and I show every shot in the film. An average film has about 1,400 individual shots all in a row. Some films have more, like Jaws I think has like 1,800 or more. Lord of the Rings may have 3,000 shots. Annie Hall, which won the Best Picture in 1977, I believe, for Woody Allen, only had like 325 shots. What I do is I take the film, I either download it or I rip it off my Blu-ray or DVD that I already own, and then I'll put it in DaVinci Resolve, which is a free program available for Mac or PC. I'll use scene detection mode, which chops up the long one feature film into as many cuts as it sees. Now, it does make mistakes. If there's lights flashing, if there's things passing, it'll make a whole bunch of cuts, so it's not accurate. I'll go then and erase all the bad cuts, so I literally have every shot lined up, and then I export that into Photoshop so I can make a grid. And if you look up Vashi frames anywhere on the internet, you'll see I've done Jaws, Lawrence of Arabia, like probably 10 films, Chinatown, and you can zoom in, 2001 Space Odyssey, you can zoom in and see all the shots, and you can go to a certain chunk of the film and see why it's working. You can see the color palette. You can see the size of the shot. Is it a wide shot? Is it a medium shot? Is it a close-up? You can visually scan it and see it, and I learned so much because I can see how a film was edited, the pacing, the timing, the rhythms are all evident in these images. So that's what I do, definitely. I watch films and then try and analytically break them down further to see why are they working, and basically reverse engineering a film to my benefit so I can be a better editor and I can see those same patterns emerging in my work.
Awesome. A couple more questions here,
Sure.
And then we'll shift back to Instagram. So we've got another...
That's my pumpkin. Can you see the pumpkin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Move it this way a little bit so people can see full frame. Yeah.
I'll do the next question.
Let's showcase that pumpkin.
My friend, the pumpkin.
Harshit Raj had another question. Could you suggest some edit tricks or practice one can do on a regular basis to enhance skills?
There's no tips or tricks for editing per se. It's literally cutting something and trying to tell a story. As I said before, if that's a 30-second short film, if that's a 1-minute commercial, if that's a 2-minute documentary, if it's a 30-second documentary about something important to you that you have seen or living around or whatever, that's you have to have that. So I would say that the most important thing is to definitely be active and edit. The only way to become a better editor is to edit. When I finish a feature film and I take a couple weeks off, I come back and sit down and try and cut something. I literally can't. The first couple hours I'm like, oh my God, I can't even get my brain wrapped around it. And that's just from a couple weeks after I've edited something for 9 months. So it's a muscle that you have to use daily or as often as possible, otherwise it will atrophy and you will slip out of the zone. And being in the zone as the editor is one of the most important and beautiful feelings to have, where you're just in rhythm with the story, in rhythm with the emotions, and hopefully the mechanics of the software, everything just disappears so you can just tell the story. So just cut a lot.
Great. And I saw Tobias had just joined. I know he had a question here on Instagram. He had asked, hey Vashi, how do you manage your work and life balance, working hours / days off? How many features a year is realistic without burning out? Greetings from Germany.
Nice. Greetings to Germany as well. Awesome. I used to go, my dad coached hockey in Schwenningen-Villingen, so I'd go for summers there all the time. So it was beautiful. Schwarzwald, Black Forest. Good cake and good hiking. But I would say that that's the hardest challenge. As an editor, I would want to work as long as I can every day, but that's not healthy. You can't just sit at your station for 18 hours because, again, it goes back. Once you're in the zone, you don't want to stop. You got to stop and break up your day. Those are the good days if you go really long because it's productive. There's other days where you're there a long time and it's not productive. I would say, an average day for me is 10 hours, of editing, 12 sometimes. When you hit deadlines on real professional feature film, like big jobs in Hollywood, you go until you literally can't. Like the director will be sitting with you, you're trying to hit a deadline, it gets crazy. I know instances of people are editing for 36 hours straight or whatever, and then they go home. It's probably not legal, but I know every editor does it because they want to like help the director, they want to help the project, they want to get hired again. So there is abuse. It's self-abuse by the editors, in my opinion. Some people make rules, say I'm only working 8 hours a day. They may not be hired by certain productions because they're like, screw this. I want someone who's going to grind. Good and bad to all that, obviously. You got to give as much as you can, but you have to give yourself as much as you can. I have a problem with work-life balance. Like I'm in here too often, or I'm working on a project too much. I should be outside. I should be doing other things. I should, take Emery for a hike or something, something better than just being in here all the time. So it's a balance you got to strike. It also based on your needs. Do you need credits? Do you need money? What's the most important thing at that moment on that project? So you got to balance all that, and it's not an easy task. And I can tell you from my position, it doesn't get any easier. So try and set good standards for yourself earlier. In terms of length of feature film time, I try and do one a year is good for me. Sometimes two. An average feature film in Hollywood, the post-production editorial will usually take, the bigger the project, the longer time you have. But 6 months to 9 months is not unreasonable to expect. Right out of the gate. On a bigger project, it could be 12 months. A friend of mine, Martin Hunter, edited Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. He worked on that for 3 years straight and never had 3 days off. He had 2 days off a couple times, but he worked 6 days a week, 7 days a week for 3 years to finish Full Metal Jacket. That's crushing. Like that's insanity, right? I mean, no one wants that. But in the world today, 6 to 9 months for a feature film as the lead editor to be able to be hands-on and do all your work is where it's usually at. So
that's plenty for a year.
That's plenty for a year.
Awesome. Oh, and really quickly going back to Harshit's question, can you re-mention what you talked about last week about the 6 things that editors do and just really getting in the flow with that and having your keyboard shortcuts?
Oh yeah, well, I try and base everything on keyboard shortcuts as much as I can to have my eyes up on the screen and have my hands down and make it comfortable. But mechanically, again, as an editor telling a story, what we do the most is in, out, set an in point and out point in a clip, insert that into our timeline. And then if there's a gap or if there's something we want to get rid of, you delete it, and then we trim the edges. So it's literally in, out, insert, and then in, out, insert the next shot, in, out, insert, and then if you don't like something, delete it, and then you trim the ends. So it's mechanically we're building linearly across and then trimming the ends as we go. A lot of editors like to drop one shot in, second shot, and then trim that right away to make a fine cut. I find if you do the in and out pretty close, just drop it down and just start adding it up. Just start building a sequence because you're going to go back anyways and trim everything. Don't do it as you're going. Try and build out. Screenwriters call that the vomit draft, where you just spit everything out onto the page. It doesn't matter if it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's just coming out and it has to get moving forward. Today on feature films, directors expect to see some kind of cut if you're getting the footage on that day. They want to see a cut later in the day. They could have shot 50 different setups. It's a 4-minute scene, and they want to see a version of it at the end of the day. So if you're working while they're shooting, you got to crank out a 4-minute scene. It's not going to be very good, but they just want to see how the shots flow together. They're not judging you on your storytelling because you're giving back as much feedback to them as they are to you, where you say, well, you don't have this shot. This is too much of this. It would be great if we had this. So there's a communication back and forth, but you are expected to just do stuff, and you have to know the very simple basics. Just in, out, insert, delete, trim. Those things are what we do all day. Hope that helps.
And another question from Instagram we had from Gautam Mahajan 98.
Nice.
Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro X, which one is better?
There's no better. I mean, that's all bullshit, and you guys know that. If you have a tool, I use Final Cut 7 for forever. I've cut features on Final Cut 7, on Avid, on Premiere Pro.
Similarly, we just had a sysadmin25 said, do you work with Avid or Premiere Pro or something else?
As an editor, I have to know every platform out there that is being used. Because a production, first of all, a production hires the storyteller, not the tool. Every time you see an ad that says, looking for an Avid editor or looking for a Final Cut X editor, like really? So you're going to block out half the editors out there or 75% of the editors out there because you're saying it has to be cut on this? It's a joke. I would never take a job where I had to, by force, use a certain platform
Or like you said,
if I didn't know it. But the thing is, I know them
yeah.
all because it's my job. I'm a professional. I have to know these tools. What's the point of not knowing what's out there and being able to utilize it to be a better editor, to be a better communicator, to be a better storyteller, and to be a better, like, you're an asset. Any production's like, oh, get Vashi, he can cut on anything. That'd be the greatest spot to be in. Be the editor that they're like, oh, he doesn't matter what you're cutting on, just he's a great storyteller. That's the goal. Don't be don't rely on the name of your editing software to either brag or say this or that or identify with it. Identify as a film editor. Identify as a storyteller. That's much more important.
Awesome. And then we had another
Got
question.
fired up. I'm all fired up. What's going on?
Don't
Next.
be married to your platform.
Yeah, exactly.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
Amit K, sorry if I'm botching this name, 07, asks, what all gears do you work with, Wacom, MMOs, etc.? I think we had a similar question.
Yeah, we had similar.
week.
I'm mouse-based and keyboard-based. I try and get my keyboard shortcuts dialed into the way I love. I'm actually going to post a quick little YouTube tutorial for one of my favorite tricks for getting around the keyboard, with keyboard shortcuts for manipulating my layers, because you'll see. So just go to Vashi Visuals YouTube, and within the next hour or two, I'm going to have this thing posted. It's a really cool tip. I've showed this to like 3 or 4 Oscar-winning editors, about 35 other ace editors, and none of them had seen this before, and they're like, what, do that again, how did you do that? Oh, I'm gonna utilize that, I'm gonna do that. Can you set up my keyboard? So I set up their keyboard with my special secret sauce. So I'll post that later today. It's for just manipulating track heights and making a more efficient workspace. So I'm mouse-based, keyboard shortcut-based as much as possible. I've tried the Wacom tablets, I don't like them, that's just me. I know all the guys on Mindhunter and all of Fincher's team, all his editors that I've worked with and assistants, they all use the Wacom tablets. So again, it's what you're comfortable with and what you're really fluid with. And I'm more fluid with the mouse and lots of keyboard shortcuts.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions from people on live here? We've got a couple more people joining here. Do you use a dedicated keyboard for Premiere Pro or Avid?
No, I use just a stock. I just have literally a wired Mac.
Let's see your gear.
I can't, it's wired. I can't pull it out. It'll rip it out. No, I use just a Mac keyboard. The only one I do have to use the PC keyboards, but I hate the Control Alt where it doesn't have the Apple. and the Shift or whatever is switched.
It's just muscle memory.
Yeah, it's muscle memory. So I just put it like an Apple keyboard. I don't do the little tags on top, little tiles that tell you what it is, because I'll either update my keyboard shortcuts or put something new in, and those are usually stock where it's like mapped out to the default, which I don't use. I use a combination of like 3 different keyboards from 3 different platforms. So yeah, keyboard, regular keyboard. As long as it clickety clacks, I'm good.
Awesome. I see we had a couple more people just joining. Any more questions from those on live? You can comment. And Vashi, if you just want to mention as well the tutorials that we're going to be posting a few tutorials on YouTube and.
Yeah, I got a lot of requests to do more tutorials, especially little things. So I made a list of like 10 things that I do all the time, like little things that are not just like written. When you see these when you go to these websites and they have like, here's how to edit with JKL, like everyone knows that. It's just a joke. It's like people are just reading from the manual and trying to like get hits. I'd rather share professional editing tips that I use that I've picked up from other editors or that I've shared with other editors that most people don't know about. So I'm going to be doing a whole bunch on our YouTube channel at Vashi Visuals, where I'll start today with the little keyboard shortcut for the track height stuff. I think that's really important. It's these little tiny things that you can do to make your work process more efficient, to get through the day faster, to be able to interact with like the director faster. Like there's all these little technical tips that have nothing to do with storytelling, but can make you a better editor, especially when you're dealing with, in Hollywood on professional sets and professional edit bays. Directors don't have time, producers don't have time. When they sit with you, they want to see what they want to see. When they ask for something, you have to be able to show it right away. You can't be digging around and looking for stuff. No one has time to wait. So half of being a professional editor in Hollywood is being organized, having really good people skills, trying to, always be prepared for like the worst. Always know how to handle like, crashes and your backups and all the things that we don't want to deal with, but it's critical. So just be diligent, and I'll be able to share that slowly, once a week or whatever. And then I'm going to put some more detailed ones on our Patreon page, which will be up shortly, probably in the next couple of weeks, by Thanksgiving.
Awesome.
And then I'll have more information about the really top secret stuff that I do not that I don't want to give it away. I've given away so many things already on my website. So just more intricate stuff that you guys will find interesting.
All right. And we've got a final question
Final
here.
question, then everyone's going to go trick-or-treating.
By the way, sysadmin, I saw your question about why don't you stream this Q&A via YouTube. That's definitely something we'll look into. Right now, we're posting recordings of these on YouTube, so you can view the replay after the fact. But definitely...
1 camera, 2 camera.
Yeah.
You'll get the horizontal, you'll get the landscape view, though.
That's definitely something we want to experiment with on the Q&As. And then final question,
sure.
Check Mike had asked, do you also have time to read books? Is the experience the same as watching a movie?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Check Mike. Nobody. I would say that I love books. I love reading books. I have a bookshelf that has I have 40 books that I've bought in the last couple months that I have to make time to get to. Again, work-life balance. And some of them are on filmmaking. Some of them are on art, architecture, anything that will, again, through osmosis will help me be a better story editor. When I read a book, my brain creates the whole vision, which is the point of a book. But we watch so many movies that you're triggered by certain things. I think books can show you something different, make you think a different way, and hopefully that can translate over. I like architecture books because you see buildings in certain places and it looks like a still frame from a movie, and then you make up what the characters are doing and who the characters are and what's happening in the scene. I love doing that. There's some communist architecture that's been abandoned, that's in the woods, and it looks like it's straight out of Star Wars, like the original Star Wars A New Hope. It's just these huge concrete buildings and bunkers coming out of the forest, and you're like, that's real, it's just sitting there. And to me, when I see that, I get inspired to try and tell a story. So books are critical. I'm visually stimulated as an editor. Books are visual with pictures or with words. When you're telling a story, you're reading a story, everything just explodes out from there. So I find books a great release and a relief to help me, recharge or get inspired.
Do you mind sharing your latest book, and then we'll wrap it
Which
up?
one?
The Hadid, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
It's out there, isn't it?
It's
it's right here.
Yeah.
Oh. So.
And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
This is a great book.
Yeah. So Zaha Hadid is an amazing architect who just passed away, not too long ago. But she's won every award for architecture, and it's basically everything that she makes is just insane, and she's built all around the world, and everything literally looks like a movie set. The Science Center. I mean, it all looks ridiculous where you see something and you're like, I want to live in there. I want to just film in there. It's the most amazing locations. And so it's 650 pages, and it's an insane inspirational tome that I will be taking with me everywhere and learning more from.
Vashi's going to have to start his own book club now.
Yeah, we got it. All right, is that good?
Yeah, so I think we got to pretty much everyone's questions here, and if
Awesome.
there's someone that we didn't get to, we'll be on again next week, so we'll let you know.
Yes, we will.
When that's going live, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and the YouTube video will be up at Vashi Visuals YouTube channel, which is just Vashi Visuals, and that's also my website where you can learn more about me, see one of my other tutorials and articles, and my blog has, way too many posts by now, but go enjoy, and I'll have a special tutorial up this afternoon on YouTube for my secret settings in Premiere Pro. Thank you. Happy Halloween.